Hello, welcome to MJRRPG, a podcast for tabletop role-playing game reviews, replays, etc., and so forth. The following review is for the Call of Cthulhu scenario, The Maw. As always, the first section of this review will be spoiler-free for players and keepers alike, while the second half will be spoiler-full, so I will give a warning to all players to run away. Disclaimer that I was provided with a free review copy of this scenario. Also, I have a cold, so apologies for my horrible, messed up voice. If you prefer, there is a link to the text version of this review in the show notes, so you don't have to listen to me. In short, top-notch layout and design complement a meaty two-part investigation and adventure-focused scenario that makes full use of its setting and colorful NPCs, but does need a bit of work from the keeper to smooth over a mechanically difficult climax. Dossier number 1, The Maw, is the first in the Obscuriat Walse series of German scenarios, and so far the only translated into English, put out by the appropriately named Obscuriat Walse. Centered around Obscuriat Severin Walse, a sort of occult-focused antiquarian, and his business in the fictional German town of Aachen in the 1920s. The Maw tasked the investigators with hunting down a lost high-value shipment Walser had been waiting for, leading into a beefy two-part, 5 to 8 hour, very classic-feeling scenario, with a balanced mix of investigation and adventure. The bulk of the scenario is a very classic feeling, and indeed an unofficial sequel to Lovecraft's story, Investigation, moving from location to location, largely freeform, through Aachen, finding clues and talking to people of interest. The slow ratcheting up of mystery and tension is done very well, and without giving too much away, the quiet investigative sections are perfectly balanced with an eventual excitement and suspense. Aachen is also very well rooted in its time and place, giving extra texture to the exploration. I don't have the book myself, but I imagine Berlin, the Wicked City, would go along well with this scenario. The scenario itself is a hefty 54 pages of text, along with 36 pages of stats, handouts, and pre-gens. You'll also get 3 PDF versions, a small-sized hyperlinked PDF, a full-size print-focused PDF, and a background-less printer-friendly PDF. A clean text version of the handouts, and 2 fillable custom character sheets, 1 full-color, 1 printer-friendly. Completely ignoring anything else, this is a huge amount of content for its price. Miskatonic repository creators, myself very much included, should take note of the Maw's layout and design. The legibility rivals professional products, with narrative text, text boxes, lists, and images all arrayed in a clean and understandable manner that still looks great. A lot of care can plainly be seen, with custom backgrounds, borders, text boxes, image frames, and list markers. A combination of stock period pictures and some staged photos, with the writing and editing staff providing actors, I believe. Very cute. Breaking up the text and add color to the setting. The standout feature of the layout are the summary pages at the end of each scene, condensing the scene's setting and main events, where the investigators may go to next, additional hints and leads that may be found in the scene, as well as additional investigative options that a keeper may include if they desire, or if the investigators want to poke around more. Though a beefy scenario, these summary pages help keep everything manageable, and after a read through the full text, keepers can mostly refer to these summaries as a reminder while preparing or running the scenario. I really hope more scenarios, including officially published scenarios, include sections like this, as they make preparation much, much easier. As far as layout and physical design goes, the Maw is really near perfect, with the only addition I could think of being a flowchart, but that's a personal preference for me. I always draw my own flowcharts before running anyways, but it's nice to have one already there. As with the general layout and design, the bundle of handouts is also detailed and believable. The scenario opens with the investigators receiving a bunch of handouts, and it's neat to right away hand control of the initial investigation to the players by letting them sort through the various documents and notes before getting into the meat of the game. I particularly like one appendix, a set of NPC bookmarks with pictures and names, and I've already stolen that idea for my own future scenarios to both help the keeper and players keep up with all the various characters. A physical collection of the handouts is also available on Obscuriat Walse's website. It looks fantastic, though the shipping for me across an ocean would be a little bit much, but for those in Europe or with deep pockets, it looks very neat indeed. There are a few criticisms, though most of them I'll talk about below as they spoil a few moments, and for the most part impact keepers more than players. While very well designed and constructed, there are occasionally awkwardly worded phrases. Another editing pass might have helped smooth out the translation, though it is all still fully understandable. Only 2 pre-generated investigators are included. Unless a scenario is specifically designed for a specific number of investigators, or highly encourages players to bring their own, I always prefer at least 4 pre-generated characters. I don't feel like the scenario is particularly designed towards only 2 investigators, as you'll likely be able to tell from the spoilerful section below. A custom fillable character sheet is included, and I'm always excited to see custom character sheets. But it still would have been ideal to have 2 more pre-made characters as detailed as the ones already included. You can find the 2 additional investigators I rolled up here if you need 2 more and don't want to make them yourself. One last point that isn't much of a criticism is that while the NPCs are colorful and fleshed out with portraits, stats, and detailed backgrounds, it's easy to miss out on a few of them completely, and many only show up for a single scene. I hope they pop up as reoccurring characters in future Obscuriat Walse scenarios, otherwise it seems like a lot of effort for one-scene appearances. Overall, I had a great time not only running the MAW, but just reading it. A unique setting, fun NPCs, great handouts, and a classic investigative feeling with a thrilling conclusion make playing the scenario great fun. As a keeper and a scenario creator, the layout and design are also top-notch and a reminder that arranging content is as important as writing it. Highly recommended. From here on out, lots of spoilers. If you're a player and don't want to know, you should probably go away now. Otherwise, keepers, listen close. Here's some parts that might need a little bit of tuning to make work right. The MAW is not overly complicated to run, and the summary sections clear up any confusions you might run into when reading through the scenes. The general outline of the scenario is as such. The investigators are tasked with locating a missing package, a stone relief from Egypt, and start out trying to find it at the local train station. From there, they learn 2 missing workers may have been involved with the package, leading the party to the workers' apartments. More clues lead to a few different places, potentially including a pawn shop, a mob-run restaurant, and a pub. With various rumors and clues, the investigators eventually find their way to an abandoned brick factory, where they fall into a trap that ends the free-form investigative portion of the scenario. From there on out, the scenario is essentially linear, as the party finds themselves trying to escape an Egyptian tomb. While this could have been a plotting dungeon crawl, the scenario makes it very tense and well-paced, from the out-of-control terror of the initial trap, the slow problem-solving in complete darkness through a few rooms, until finding a light source, then a puzzle to avoid a few very deadly traps. The final scene is once again largely freeform in how the investigators tackle their escape, evading a ceremony involving a crowd of mummies, beastmen, ghouls, an evil pharaoh and a queen, and the MAW itself. It's a great contrast to the lower stakes, relaxed investigation, and growing mystery of the first section. There is an escalating sense of dread as well as complexity, as the chambers become deadlier and larger. Unfortunately, while the final chamber and escape is an appropriately large and exciting climax, it has some mechanical issues that need to be smoothed over before playing. Some combat-related details are missing, and if played exactly as written, the investigators will almost inevitably die. The final scene has the investigators sneak through a massive chamber, then climb up a huge staircase of stone blocks. The sneaking through the chamber is great, but the climb itself is problematic. The creatures notice the party as it escapes up the stairs, leading to 2 main issues. 1, the number of creatures, and 2, the pace of the final escape up the giant set of stairs. The number of creatures is not laid out in detail. This isn't too much of an issue for a normal game, as if the investigators directly attack a horde of monsters, they will simply perish. But in the climax of the scene, the investigators are shot at by beastmen with a variety of ranged weapons, though stats are only given for a sling. It would be nice to know how many are shooting at the investigators, or have some advice on how to adjust the number depending on the group size. Otherwise, in conjunction with the next issue, the investigators will inevitably be turned into pincushions during their escape. To make things simple, I gave each player the option to focus on climbing, or to try and take cover with the dodge roll. If they focused on climbing or failed their dodge, I would make a single ranged attack on them, with an added penalty die once they were about halfway up the stairs, and on a hit do a simple 1d6 damage. The other issue with monster numbers is ghouls. To be specific, the 3 ghouls the scenario includes. While the ghouls in the scenario are a little weaker than those in the Keeper rulebook or Malleus Monstrorum, a single ghoul is fast and has 3 attacks of 2d4, more than enough to tear apart any investigator or 2 in a single turn. The investigators may have 1 or 2 magical items that can fend off the ghouls, but if they don't, or for any investigator unlucky enough to not be carrying one of the items, they are 100% dead. If the Keeper is determined to kill an investigator, or 3, then the 3 ghouls will certainly do that. For my run, I reduced the number down to a single ghoul. Along with the constant raining arrows and spears, 1 investigator still died, and the others escaped only by the skin of their teeth. The second main issue is the pace of escaping up the stairs. There are 30 blocks to climb, and the scenario says investigators can climb 2 a turn with a dex or climb roll, otherwise only 1 a turn. I refuse to run a potential 30-round combat in Call of Cthulhu, and if the investigators are being shot at every one of those turns, probability is not on their side, and they will probably die. For my run, I reduced the blocks by half, and allowed the investigators to sneak a bit of the way up thanks to a distraction before being noticed. I'd also suggest allowing an investigator to climb 3 blocks with a hard success, or 4 with an extreme success. Alternatively, this section could be converted with the chase rules, or condensed down to a single climb roll if a group is running low on time or just doesn't want to get involved with an extended combat scene. Despite these speed bumps, our group's escape was exciting and tense. One investigator had already gone insane by this point, but managed to cause a distraction, albeit by accident, allowing the others to climb a good ways up the stairs before being noticed. The rain of missiles miraculously didn't hit any of them over 4 rounds, and at the top of the stairs, the fastest investigator desperately fought off the ghoul until another investigator with the magic relief could arrive to drive off the creature. A final brawl with a mummy capped off the excitement as the party wrestled the stone block into place to block off the tunnel, and finally the 3 bruised and bloodied survivors found their way back to Aachen. Overall, I really love the Maw, and would gladly recommend it to anyone looking for a classic 1920 scenario to cover 1 long session or 2 3 to 4 hour sessions. And I am very much looking forward to the English translation to the next entry in the series, The Mirror. You can find the Maw on DriveThruRPG. Links in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and thank you for putting up with my messed up voice. As always, thank you to CryoChamber for use of their album, Cthulhu. Until next time, have a good one.